Anytime you're ready.
Call to order the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals, regular meeting December 6, 2023. Call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Cernova,
Here.
Mr. Reichel, Mr. Souls. Here. Mr. Beck,
Here.
Mr. Sutton,
Here.
Mr. Pucilides.
Here. My name is Demetrius Pucilides. I'm chairman of this committee. I'll introduce the other members. To my immediate right is our vice chair, Jeff Sutton. To his immediate right is Robert Souls. To his immediate right is Tia Cernova. To my immediate left is our secretary, Richard Beck. And to his immediate left is our zoning director, Thomas Ferrara. Unless I hear otherwise, there are no changes to the agenda. There's a statement of duties out back if you'd like to read them. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our October 4th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Cernova,
Yes.
Mr. Souls,
Yes.
Mr. Beck,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Pucilides.
Yes. There being no unfinished business, we have just one new business today, and that's appeal number 13783-23, which I will read. Applicant agent, Family and Community Services, Inc., 705 Oakwood Street, Suite 221, Ravenna, Ohio, 44266. Applicant requests the following: to construct an addition to an existing building with a side yard setback of 9.5 feet to provide 10 off-street parking spaces and have 25 living units on less than an acre on the property located at 2915 33rd Street Northeast, parcel number 5208942 and 3317 Maxine Avenue Northeast, 2812 34th Street Northeast, parcel number 5216259, section 705.3 of our zoning code, minimum lot and yard requirements, 15.54 foot north and south side yard setback variance, 25 feet required, 9.5 feet requested. Section 901.1A, schedule of required off-street parking spaces, 50 off-street parking space variance, 60 parking spaces required, 10 spaces requested. Section 705.1, purpose, 16 dwelling units per acre variance, 9 dwelling units per acre required, 25 dwelling units requested. The property is zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residential district, and is located in the southeast quarter of section 26. Note the fire department has submitted a correspondence and it has no recommendations or suggestions regarding this appeal. Do we have anyone that is going to speak in favor of this appeal? Can you raise your hand? Do you swear or affirm that the information you're about to present is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Can you state your name? And
Matthew, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Can you spell your last name?
Matthew Slater, S-L-A-T-E-R,
And your address, please?
454 Palisades Drive, Akron, Ohio, 44303.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for considering our appeal. I am the Director of Development for Family and Community Services. We are the nonprofit that oversees Honor Home, which is the transitional housing for homeless vets. So we are actually the largest provider of this service in Ohio. We have over 100 beds for transitional units for homeless vets and a number of permanent support housing for veterans. The agency that we work for is a pretty large nonprofit, and supporting our vets is a big piece of what we do. And Clay Township has been very wonderful and supportive of us. We found out about these properties through Congressman Renacci, who ended up donating 2 of the properties, and we purchased 1 of them. And we have a wonderful opportunity to invest about $2 million in the property. We have a grant from the VA and some funding through a mechanism called the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati, which will allow us to create the building that we're suggesting. And kind of the concept, so you know where we're coming from, was we looked at the 3 parcels where we're currently serving 8 vets in each building, which is 24. And I realize this is an oversimplification, but we said, okay, what can we do to meet the VA code where we had to create individual bedrooms with individual bathrooms per our grant, and continue to meet our mission and grant requirements. And we came up with this would be the best way to provide that, to provide a building that met what the VA wants to do and is more resistant to any number of communicable diseases that can happen in any type of congregate living facility. So we think this is a wonderful opportunity, and the end result of it won't be that we're serving any more, one more person. The facility is staffed 24/7, that's not changing, but combining, going from 3 buildings to 1 residential building would help us out tremendously with operations and services. As everyone knows, the amount of business costs have gone up due to COVID, and those haven't been ratcheted back down. So we are looking at ways that we can make sure we preserve these needed services. We serve about 80 homeless vets throughout the year. We also have a program that's run out of there that helps vets with things like security deposit, first month's rent, eviction notices, and we have any number of community partners that we work with, and we think we've been good neighbors in the community. So that's my speech.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions, or if anyone else wants to speak.
Yeah. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this appeal? Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the information you're about to present is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief? State your name and address, please.
My name is Casey Arthur. I'm a representative for Family and Community Care Services. I'm the architect of record on the project, working for the Thrasher Group and the Canton office.
And your address?
I'm gonna have to look at, forgive me, the address for the Canton office. Just one moment. I'm very sorry, sir.
Is it 400 3rd Street Southeast, Suite 309?
Yes, that sounds about, my office is, forgive me, my office is in Charleston, West Virginia.
That's Canton 44702. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Again, thank you all for your time this evening and hearing our appeals. The goal again for this project is to allow them to more effectively serve the veterans at the site and economically. You know, as Matt discussed, the goal, the best way to do this appears to be to combine 2 of the properties into a single combined facility, where currently on the site, through 3 houses, they support 24 residents. And this project would then allow them to serve now 25, 1 additional in a format of private resident rooms or sleeping units, as opposed to 24 and that are semi-private. So currently on site they serve semi-private rooms for these veterans and share bathroom facility. Now with this new project, they would be allowed to provide 25 residents, each individual room, sleeping rooms that would have, space for a bed as well as their own private bathroom on site. The current zoning R2 for the site, 1 and 2 family residential, does not appear to have provision for this combined facility. Currently, each facility, on its own is defined, at least according to the definitions of, the current zoning ordinances as group homes. I have a copy, exhibits here as far as with the definitions for that. But for, a group home, it's provide room, board, personal care, and habitation services in a family setting for at least 9, but not more than 16 persons with developmental disabilities. While, this facility, their current facilities do not support, residents with disabilities, that definition, in the ordinance appears to be the closest that this current transitional living facility represents. But now, combining the facility into one, obviously it goes over the maximum there. So allowing for this to be redefined now, considering as a congregate living facility, which according to the ordinance is a residential facility to provide for the needs of individuals who are elderly or handicapped. This facility shall consist of residential dwelling units along with common social, recreational, dining, and food preparation areas. While this facility that we are planning does not provide for elderly services, it is capable of that, and that definition seems to best suit the program of what their current operation is as well. There is basically group support for dining and gathering space in the facility. Each unit, this facility does not have individual dwelling units per se that have dining and gathering space per unit. It is sleeping units that each there's bedrooms with their private bathrooms and then group dining facility as well as gathering space for it. So again, based on the appeal request, we would request that the defined use could be considered as congregate living facility as opposed to group home to better define as a single location. The second item related to setbacks. So under the R3 designation, the setback requirements are greater than what is currently existing on site. Let me get my floor plan here, site plan. Pull this up. These are the two properties, this existing building and this existing building that we are proposing to connect. This is the existing Maxine Avenue Northeast that runs through the property. And so we will be requesting either that that be redirected at its original location where there's a current existing easement, or that it be vacated entirely. And so the current requirements that we see are requiring, I believe, a 25-foot setback at this side yard, and that currently exists on site is 9.5 at this existing structure. So in order to meet that, there would have to be a major structural change to develop that at this point that it would be very uneconomical, as well as it may create the possibility that we aren't going to be able to meet the current requirements for the VA as far as the space per sleeping unit for the occupants with it. So that is our request, that we go ahead and maintain that existing location as far as the 9.5-foot setback at that point in order to most economically design the structure for it. The last item is related to the required parking, and with changing it to a congregate living facility, as well as, with the R3 zoning that we are requesting at the zoning meeting. The calculation for that makes that significantly more than what we can provide on site. I'll read a little bit from our narrative here. The grounds for which the planned parking, which we have 27 planned spots currently, should be granted based upon proportional demand for the parking, the facility's use, and the historical parking needs, and existing opportunities for alternative parking. The current total parking on site is 15, and the current amount of residents is 24. Considering that the proposed facility is only expanded for one additional resident, going from 24 to 25, the total planned parking then really, based on proportions, would only be, 16 really. Therefore, the planned parking, would satisfy expected demand with this. Additionally, the operation and the use of the facility is not changing with it. The owner is still continuing the same operation that it's currently utilized for the facility. According to the owner, historically, only about half of the residents have personal automobile transportation with it. The ordinance defined use and the occupancy type for the facility are only changing based on the requirement when the housing residents in a single building. The calculation for parking spaces changes because the ordinance defined use is changing, and that calculation considers factors such as numerous visitors and staffing. So when you change the use, that is what really increases. But again, ultimately, we're requesting that the use be, the building be redefined just based on, again, trying to combine into the single facility. While this facility may experience slightly more visitors or staffing, it will be very limited and not proportional to the increased residents. Finally, there's an opportunity for alternative parking near the facility. The traffic in this area is generally low, and there will be opportunity for residents and visitors to utilize on-street parking. Furthermore, with the opportunity to potentially consider vacating Maxine Avenue altogether, that provides us the opportunity again for additional parking around the facility with it. And so in summary, again, granting these variances for the defined property use, the setbacks and required parking should really be based on the merit that really no adverse impact to the adjacent property, as well as expected demand for the parking and alternative opportunities for parking are expected. Again, the owner is not changing their operation here at this site. They're simply wanting to combine their transitional living houses into a single occupied facility to benefit the residents. And this proposed project provides that solution, I believe, the most effective and economic way. Thank you.
And anyone else to speak in favor of this appeal? Anyone to speak against this appeal? Okay, questions from the board?
Well, this is zoned R2 currently,
Yes, sir.
and you're asking us to basically grant an appeal this evening conditioned upon the fact that you're gonna receive a zone change to R3 in order to grant these variances under R3.
Our intent is that R3 provides the most flexibility for developing the site. And while, yes, I mean, these these requests for variances can be utilized as far as the R2, we would additionally are going to plan for the site to be zoned as R3.
So, let me get this straight, the the variances are based upon the R3 or R2?
They're here based on R3.
I mean, that
Would it change if it's R2? I mean, the variances?
The variances will still be needed. the changes are R2 is gonna be, less occupancy, less density.
So it'd be different than what they're requesting right now.
It would be.
I don't see how we can make any decisions based upon that if the variances are different than what's requested under R2, because it's not zoned R3.
Well, I mean, as far as, to be able to, you know, move forward with it again, this can be zoned R2, but, you know, requesting these variances, you know, obviously would allow for, you know, the project to move forward at the R2 point. It's just that those are gonna be a little more restrictive, so the gap between the requirement for, R2 is likely greater, in terms of, you know, occupants allowed on site, the maximum allowed parking on site, as opposed to R3. So we, you know, my argument would be that you can still grant the variances if you so choose, based on it being R2, and then we can still.
Yeah, but if we're gonna grant variances based on R2, they're gonna be different than what's requested in this, in your request. Because you've indicated that off-street parking variance, there's 60 off-street parking spots required. So under an R2, is it still 60 off-street, or is it gonna be different?
That will be the same as, that'll be the same,
Okay,
As
so,
R3.
yes.
so the 10 off-street parking spots provided and 12 on-street, that basically would all still be the same?
Yes.
Side yard, I'm assuming would be the same.
Yes, it'd be very close to the same,
Well, yeah, is it or not? 'Cause that.
no, it isn't. Its side yard would be,
I think it might be 10 feet.
10 feet,
So it would be actually closer in that
Yeah.
terms.
As opposed to 25 feet.
as
Yes,
opposed to 25. I might add that there's a, I'm throwing a wrench into it, but, there's the dwelling units. They're calling out 9 dwelling units per acre in an R3, or 5 units per acre in an R2. But these aren't really dwelling units like they're pointing out. A dwelling unit in the book is a home, is an apartment with a kitchen, bedrooms, living rooms, everything there. And what they're suggesting is just a room with a bedroom with a restroom. And all the food will be cooked and ate in a congregate living condition.
Correct.
So there's a difference in that density.
For R2, I mean, but, yeah, I'm
For
looking at
both.
it from an R2 standpoint, because that's what it's zoned currently, you're not zoned R3, so as far as I'm concerned, I really can't consider anything on the
Yes, sir.
R3 basis until that's zoned, that change is made. That's my,
Yes, sir. Well, so, at this time, considering it as R2, again, I believe that, you know, again, your all's prerogative, to approve the variances, it's still valid as far as, you know, for the site, again, with the goal in mind to create a combined facility with it. There are not, multiple dwelling units. It is basically a single facility that has multiple sleeping units.
but if the R2 doesn't allow what you're proposing, how can I vote on any of these other variances to be approved yet?
Well, you could review that, you could approve them based on R2. You could approve it because it's still gonna serve the same purpose in R2 as R3. It's just R3 ordinances are less restrictive than R2s are. So with the exception of the setback, the R2, as far as the amount of occupants per acre, right, or dwelling units per acre is gonna be more, or, excuse me, less. The setbacks we've discovered as far as the one that is the issue for us is currently, is gonna be easier, to meet, albeit, you know, we're 6 inches from that. And then the parking, requirement for R2, again, that would be, the maximum allowable on site would be considerably less than what we would need for this facility. So, I mean, you can still consider it. It's just, yeah, I mean, the R3 ultimately, makes this conform better, to what those requirements are.
Tom, could we make a conditional approval that basically states, should the zoning change to R3, we approve these requests?
You could, but it's more than just the R3 you're looking at. You're looking at a lot combination has to go through, a road vacation or
Okay.
redirection. There's several
Several
things that need to
components.
fall in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one thing you could consider, may consider is, continuing to define the use as group home. That was permitted under, R2 conditional uses. And albeit, granting a variance that we are allowed to occupy, you all would allow, this, design to occupy more residents in it than, what's allowed as the defined group home. And then same with the parking requirement.
So I mean, none of this has been advertised like this, right? I mean, as far as the variances that they're seeking?
Advertised, yes, it was,
Well, I know it's advertised, but wouldn't we change it? We'd have to change specifically what they're requesting. For example, the side yard setback's different.
they're here for an under the auspices of an R3.
But it's not R3.
No, but if you go to an R2, then I think you might have to re-advertise it.
Well, that's what I was
Yes,
asking,
I
that's based
agree.
upon that. So,
Well, who's gonna decide if it's R3?
zoning commission.
Okay, so can they come back after that? I mean, it sounds
I
like.
mean, why are you here before you're
Well,
seeking?
per the direction of Tom, we were here to request the variances. And then we were instructed to also, get on the agenda for, having it rezoned.
When's that?
That's next week.
Now, my suggestion was that you needed to have the variances, but not necessarily in that order. We talked about that, you might wanna go to the zoning commission first.
Doesn't that make sense to go to them first and then come to us with once you're R3, then you're coming to us with R3 and we have R3?
Well, again, we were doing this, per, our conversations with Tom as far as process. I realize that, that seems a little backwards. But again, the intent, with it, I still think it's valid, regardless of the zoning, with it. It's just, it's more flexible under the R3.
And that may be so, but we can't give them the R3.
No, I don't think we can approve that based upon the R3. And the R2, it's not been advertised as it relates specifically to approval of these zoning variances under, the R2 zoning classification. Because I don't know if they're completely different as it relates to, it sounds like, it's different with respect to the side yard setback. And then the dwelling units per acre, that sounds like that would be different, correct? Based on the R2. So, we essentially haven't advertised it from that standpoint to do that.
Yes, sir.
So it's difficult for us to approve anything under R2 when it's not been advertised that way. And then R3, we really can't do that at all until that's done.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know what the street vacation issue, is that a conditional thing that we need to have before we consider any of this as well or not?
Well, it has to do with the parking.
So if the
additional
street is
parking,
not vacated, what happens?
Then they lose, the parking spots, I can't remember how many, 15 or 16 parking
So
spots.
that would change, that parking situation would change in terms of what we're granting variances. So
Yeah.
we're kind of putting the cart before the horse on some of this stuff. So that's where I'm at. So I would say you need to come back. I'm more than willing to table the appeal. That way you don't have to refile something. I guess we just table it.
Yes, sir.
And then I guess whenever you obtain these approvals, you can come back.
For the R3?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Or if it doesn't, you need to do something different under R2, then it needs to be revised in terms of advertising of what you plan to seek. I mean, I understand the side set yard, I mean, I understand where the buildings are and kind of all that, you guys have a noble purpose, I understand all that, we just, you know, from a procedural standpoint, need to do it correctly.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of where, my position.
Yes, sir. And we would, I mean, you'd comment that you've spoken with the adjacent property owners as well with, you know, the site.
Yes, we have, and just, again, one thing that Mr. Sutton, let me know if this would save anyone any time or anything, does it, because there is a lot, but it doesn't make sense to do like a conditional approval if possible, and then we come back with, if we get the R3 variance.
That would be up to the board.
Does that not make sense to?
I don't wanna make, personally me, I don't wanna make any conditional approvals. I don't wanna set a bad precedent that we're doing conditional approvals based upon certain things. I think we need to make
Gotcha.
approvals for our zoning variances based upon existing zoning.
Fair enough, yep,
That's
understood,
my position.
Understood.
Whether anyone else is different, I don't know.
great, thank you.
So I would make a motion to table appeal number 1383-23, pending approval of the zone change, street vacation, or parcel combination, any of these factors that are necessary for the board to make a full consideration of your appeal. And, I mean, you've already presented, so we kind of already heard it, so I mean, you know, you can come back and, you know, supplement to the extent necessary, but that would be my motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Cernoway,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Beck,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Pusely.
Yes. All right, thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you.
We'll see you when we.
Yeah,
get
when
back.
See you in a month,
Okay.
hopefully,
Yeah, no, hopefully get it
That
through.
mind, our next meeting is January 3rd.
January 3rd.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we will have,
If you wanna hang out a minute, we
yeah,
can.
and we will have a meeting on the 3rd, right?
Yes, January.
And just so everyone knows, we will have election of officers, and my history shows that my term is up. Mr. Sutton will be taking over the presidency if he so chooses, and then Mr. Beck will be the vice chairman, if you so choose and accept. But that's just historically, if we go on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've paid attention to it too close over the years.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, unanimous, we're adjourned.
Tom Gibbs.